For cruising, the biggest market is sitting in India. Cruising business has three strong stakeholders. One is government. The other part is the market, is the consumer. Do you have a consumer base? And three is the cruise liners. Are they willing to bring the ships there? But when you get the assurance from the Honorable PM yourself, you get a little more confident. That's when I told Costa, please let's bring a ship into India. But Indians, for the first time, are getting
Okay.
exposed to an international brand right at their doorstep.
Okay. Was there ever a time where you are organizing a cruise or you have a big celebrity on board where things got really funny or super challenging?
Sachin Tendulkar's office to say he wants a specific bat from India. So I gave it to an official, a colleague of mine. Can I meet Sachin Tendulkar and I hand it over myself? So that night before he gave it, he said, I was so scared something might go. I put it next to my bed and kept it on my bed.
Oh my God. What advice you would like to give to young professionals who are trying to make their way in the cruising sector?
The real thing should be better than anticipation. We need to create packages which is India for Indians. Making sure the old customer keeps coming back to you again and again is the best form of compliment to you. You move to the outside big bad world where if you are good, you flourish. If you are mediocre, you vanish within no time. Travel business, you can be a jack of all trades, but a king of none. So for me, I thought it's better to be a big fish in a small ocean than try doing everything. My mom always said that 20s is your earning, not your earning curve, it's your learning curve. So don't just jump for a few thousand more.
The travel and cruising industry is largely male dominated.
So I don't think so. It'll be unfair for me to say I ever felt discriminated. In fact, I used to very often say I'm the rose among the thorns. If you're ever stuck, you know you can come back. But don't go with that fear. Just go there and fly. You'll be all right.
Also, a big shout out to our sponsor for this episode, Diggy Entertainments. They make weddings and events feel like a dream come true. So, if you are planning for your big day or any special event, they've got everything you need to make it perfect. प्लीज इस चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करना ना भूलें। हम आपके सपोर्ट से और भी अमेजिंग गेस्ट लेकर आ सकते हैं और इस वीडियो का अगर ऑडियो वर्जन आप सुनना चाहते हैं तो प्लीज हमें स्पॉटिफाई पर फॉलो करें। एंजॉय दिस एपिसोड। Today, we have a very special guest, Mrs. Nalini Gupta, who's the Managing Director of Lotus Aero Enterprises and also India GSA for International Cruise Liner Costa Cruises. Nalini ma'am, it's amazing to have you on Journey of Giants. I mean, through your own experiences, we hope to inspire many, especially women in the travel industry, to take up leadership roles.
And I think it has something to do with your upbringing.
Very true.
So I'm a family of, we are 5 girls.
Okay.
And my mother wanted a son, so she kept trying till she got the son. But every time a girl came in, she said, I'm going to make sure she's educated and she's equipped to be as good as a man, if not anything else.
Awesome.
But
Brilliant.
She needs to be there. And in those days, to make sure all of us could do our bachelor's, our master's was not easy, but she did it, and I'm very grateful to her. So if I think I've done anything great, I just happen to be an outcome of many, many other efforts, which I just happen to be the happy recipient of.
Lovely. So, ma'am, I want to start from the beginning as where did you grow up? How did you get into the travel industry? And what made you decide to start Lotus Destinations back in 2010?
Megha, you've asked me a question which can be broken up into so many parts. Because one, you said, how did I get into the travel industry? That story goes back probably much, much earlier, before even you were born.
Yeah.
I would think I've been in the industry for almost 5 decades now. So as a 20-year-old from college, straight out of college, I first wanted to be an air hostess in Air India. So I applied to be an air hostess, but then of course my family thought it would be better if I take a ground job, and I'm happy I started off as a ground job. But at that time, actually, I didn't even know I enjoyed the travel industry. I just thought I wanted to work. So I was straight out of Sydenham, joined Air India as a front office staff. And it's when I actually realized that, you can do so many things in the travel industry. And those days, there was no automation, and there was this Gulf boom. And there were so many helpless workers sitting there for a booking, or they'd lost their ticket, or their work permit was expiring. And I realized that, as a young individual, all these uh, people who came to the counter, they'd be sitting for days at the counter to get their bookings done. You could make a difference to their lives. And I genuinely started realizing that small efforts, you just do what you have to do. If you've been given the platform to do something, do it. Don't just wait there saying, I'll go by the rules. And I remember there's this incident of this person. It must have been in 1976, no, 78. And it was, this person came in from, I think, Dharan. He wanted to go back, and he had lost his ticket. And those days, of course, with no automation, you have to send a ticket to the origin, telex to the origin to ensure that what he's claiming is the correct thing. And then you issue the ticket against indemnity. And then after about 4 or 5 days with no response coming in from Dharan, this worker came and showed me his visa. And he said, if I don't enter by tomorrow, my visa expires and I have to go through a whole process again. So I was this very young girl. I went to the duty officer and said, I'm issuing the ticket. I'm going to take an
Wow.
indemnity from him. And I can see from his face that he is genuine, and he will have to go through the agent and try getting a whole new work permit. So
Hmm.
let me just do it. And I did it, and it was all forgotten. Next day, I got the reply saying that they were closed for a couple of days in Thailand, but it is a genuine case. So in
Absolutely.
my mind, I said I did the right thing, and I'm glad I saved his job. But a year later, when he came on his annual leave, he came right back to me. I'd even forgotten about him. He came right back to me and said, thank you. And I said, those moments actually become a moment of truth, that you can make a difference to people. You can sit by the rules of the book and say, no, it can't be done, this can be done. That's there for everybody. But in whichever capacity you are in each of us, in whichever capacity we are in, we can make a difference to human beings. The travel industry made me,
Hmm.
first of all, feel very fulfilled with the fact that I could do so many things.
Right.
And of course, I was learning along the way as well. Growing
Hmm.
up, from my nervous young
Yeah.
20-year-old, I started becoming more confident. And fortunately for me, Air India was a very, very good platform to start my career. I At that time, there was Emirates and Gulf Air, all of them opening up, starting their base in India. And I remember many of them would offer very attractive salaries. And when I used to discuss this with my family, they used to say, my mom always said that 20s is your earning, not your earning curve, it's your learning curve. So don't just jump for a few thousand more.
Hmm.
Just be right you are. And I'm so glad I stayed back when in Air India, because from there I had an out of turn promotion and moved to executive cadre, and things moved very well. And that's important. You come out energetic, come out positive. Instead of pointing holes in a project, you'll always see, what can I find, how can I make it work. So be it the CRS project where agents were getting automated, they sent me to Sabre in Dallas to do the testing and work with them for setting up the Sitar project with Air India. And that turned out to be literally a turning point for me, because I realized that you need to up your skills at all times. And when you're upping your skills, you need to make sure you're a step ahead of
Hmm.
everybody else.
Absolutely.
So I was still in the industry, but I moved to another company, and for me it was a big step, because um, from the comfort of Air India, where everything goes in a particular way, you don't have to worry, you're very secure. You move to the outside big bad world, where if you are good, you flourish. If you are mediocre, you vanish within no time. So I had to, in a way, while I was very confident, I had to make sure that I am delivering on what I had promised. And it worked very well. I was there with them for 5 years. And then I was itching to come back to the airline industry again. That's when Rahul Bhatia, the Interglobe head and Indigo owner,
Okay.
he offered me a job to work with South African Airways and head that
Hmm.
operation. It was a big operation from my perspective, a big jump, because South Africa, one was not sure how well it will get marketed. But at that time, South Africa in 2000 was the 38th most popular destination in India.
Hmm.
And there were two flights of South African Airways per week. Um, By the time I left
Okay.
in 2007, we had become a daily operation, and we had moved from the 38th position to the third position in terms of popularity in India. And I did receive the President's Award, Mabike's Award, when he was visiting India on helping to promote tourism to South Africa. But so these were moments where you tell yourself, you can manage quite well. But all of this is possible only because I had full support from my family. I had a lot of support from my colleagues, and of course, support from the team. So the trick in all of this was for me to make
Yeah.
not only keep myself feeling excited and passionate about what I did, but
Hmm.
getting that whole atmosphere to feel as excited. So I
Hmm.
would think my team also contributed a lot to where I have reached today. Each one of them almost behaved that they owned the product like I did. But it also helped me to
Hmm.
actually work like an entrepreneur even before we started Lotus. So
Hmm.
when I worked with Thomas Cook after
Hmm.
that, after South African, I did a Thomas Cook stint for 3 years. But during my South African Airways days, I remember I used to meet Rahul
Hmm.
Bhatia maybe once a year to discuss how we want to take the things forward along with him and Mr. Ashok Fen. I used to always
Okay.
in my mind say that I would run it like the way if he was to. What would he have done if I was here? If he was in my place? So in a way, all these opportunities gave me so I had very little learning curve when I started my own company. I'd already done it before. So I always say that if you work with that kind of passion and ownership, you don't need to, you work like an entrepreneur. So when you start your own, you don't have a learning curve there. So I did, so there was South African, after which I wanted to start my own company after South African Airways. But I realized that I genuinely didn't have a complete understanding of the holiday and travel business. That's when I did a 3 year stint with Thomas Cook as the president for travel businesses. And from there, I actually understood, I got a macro view of how travel would work. What are people looking for? Customers, besides, in an airline, it's just like a bum on a seat. You just need to make sure that you have got great load factors, you've got deployment as to what the customer requires, make sure everything goes well. But beyond that, there was there's so many other verticals. That's when I actually got exposed to the cruising world when I was at Thomas Cook, and I realized that
Hmm.
we have a very small segment of the cruising
Hmm.
part. Indians hardly were 0.5% of the global numbers. And when I started my own company, I always believed there was a no me too to do. I
Okay.
didn't want to do what everybody else did. I said, I need to be in a space which is what others have not got into. It's
Yeah.
difficult, it's challenging, but it's okay. It can be done. Everything is still doable, but you need to be out there. And that's when I met with Costa. I met with a couple of people, Dario Rustico from Costa during my Thomas Cook days, and he did ask me if I could join the team, which I didn't want to join any team. I had started my own company. I said I would be the GSA, and they trusted me to be their GSA. And during that time, a couple of things is what I had asked for. One is they needed to have a commitment to come to India, and they said they would
Okay.
do that if I was able to
Hmm.
help them to open the doors. In a way, I think it was for me a calling where I said with South African Airways I managed to
Hmm.
get the tourism award, but in India this is really a huge gap. The government,
Okay.
in fact, the cruising business has three strong stakeholders. One is the government. It's almost a 33% share in terms of being able to make it a success. The other part is the market, is the consumer. Do you have a consumer base? And three is the cruise liners. Are they willing to bring the ships there? So if you have a market available, which India has, they have the markets available and they have the distribution network in terms of travel
Yeah.
agents. We have cruise liners willing to come. They'll go wherever the
Hmm.
opportunity is. They would come to India as well. But the government had still not, there were so many other urgencies the government has and had. So cruising was not really, in that sense, top of
Hmm.
mind action for them. So then they said, okay, we will do something. Fortunately for me, as early as 2016, when there was a maritime conference, Sagar Mala project was being launched by the Honorable PM. I had the chairman of Carnival Corporation, David Dingle, meet the PM and tell him that he's very keen on coming here. And there was Mr. Nitin Gadkari, who was the shipping minister then. He said, of course, we'll help you bring your ships here. And when you get that kind of assurance at the highest level, there are challenges at the lower level, but when you get an assurance from the Honorable PM yourself, you get a little more confident. That's when I told Costa, please let's bring a ship into India. And we were the first international carrier to do a Bombay, Mangalore, Cochin, Maldives. And we did that from 2016 for 4 years.
Top,
So in
yeah.
that sense, I think those 4 years again were extremely important for us because not only did we bring a lot of foreigners on the ship, but Indians for the first time were getting exposed to an international brand right at their doorstep.
Okay.
They didn't have to travel to a Singapore or didn't have to travel to Dubai at that time. A lot of people used to go to Singapore because truly in that sense in 2005, Star Cruises had brought their ship here.
Cruise liners.
Star Libra had come to India. But I think they were a little too early for the game because in 2005, the government was not into that space at all. So they had some issues in terms of infrastructure and various other things. So in that sense, I think in 2016 things were much better. So everything was not solved, but definitely much better. And I'm happy that we were able to have a successful season for 4 years before COVID. So in that sense, my journey has been extremely varied, but I have always maintained that, if you are a little ahead of the game, you're competitive, but a little ahead of the game, and you truly believe in what you're doing, solutions come along. In fact, last year, we had pure domestic sailings, Bombay, Goa, Bombay, Bombay, Cochin, Bombay, and of course, Lakshadweep as well. That again was to coincide with the Dekho Apna Desh year for the PM had announced. We brought in a ship just for that purpose. It did extremely well.
Wow. I mean, your energy and your optimism and enthusiasm, it's so inspiring. And I believe this attitude and this mindset has opened doors not only for your work journey, but so many doors have opened for other avenues as well. I mean, you've opened doors for international cruise liners in India. So many opportunities popped up through you.
I think it's there. I would give it to them as well that they had confidence in our assessment of the situation. And if there were issues, they knew we'd solve it for them.
Yeah, right. So, ma'am, when you mentioned that they approached you to become the GSA, so getting the role of GSA for Costa Cruises back in 2012, I mean, it was a big deal, right? So, how did that change things for you and Lotus Destinations?
So when I set up Lotus Destination, I was still in the travel space. So a lot of business which came to us was for people who knew me as a South African Airways head or a head of Thomas Cook. So it was nothing focused. I just realized that in the travel business, you can be a jack of all trades, but a king of none. So for me, I thought it's better to be a big fish in a small ocean than try doing everything. In my mind, I said that since India is at its nascent stage, whatever efforts we put to make people aware of our sailings, whatever efforts we put in terms of explaining to people what this business is all about. For instance, I felt besides hard work and passion and element of sincerity, what was important is also, what is this cabin price, port taxes, gratuity? बहुत confusing hai. So important thing was to make what they thought was complex, make it as simple as possible. So we used to have response sheets where they say, okay, this is how the journey is. This is how this is what you'll go and tell your customer. How can we, so in this time and age when there's so much of information flowing, I can go online and see a whole lot of things. There's information available, but can I make it precise? Can I make it concise? The other person is able to understand something which they think is difficult to do. It was not also just a business element, but cruising as a business vertical was not very familiar to the Indian client, or for that matter, the distributor, the travel agents, the corporates. And everybody looks for something which can I. So we start telling people about the advantages. For instance, we did a lot of mites groups on ship. They always say, "Arey, ship pe kya hoga?" I said, "It's all under one roof. You don't have to worry. Everybody, there's no packing, unpacking. You have the wrapped audience with you. Or for that matter, we did the biggest wedding on board our ship, Costa Fascinosa. What did we tell the bridegroom and the father of the bridegroom? To say, all your guests are with you for that entire 3-4 days. We've not lost anywhere else. So in that sense, and it's unique. So now, of course, with Anand Ambani's pre-celebration cruise, there will be a fair amount of demand for cruising. But in 2016, for chartering a ship, especially for a wedding of their son, to take a ship on charter for 3-4 nights was a first of its kind. And in that sense, I think it's how you genuinely have to wear the cap of your customer and say, would I have wanted to do it? And how can I do it? So that sincerity of effort needs to show. So for me, Costa was just not a product which I did or becoming a GSA. It was a whole plethora of things which needed to be done. And I did it not only as a GSA, but as if I was myself Costa. For instance, last year, when one ship was coming in, we coming in for the domestic sailing, we were told that there was a GSA to be GST to be paid on the cost of the vessel. And that was a very high amount of money, which is not applicable anywhere else in the world. And in India, um, in the true sense, since nobody's focused on cruising, even the authorities did not really know about it. So I had to go as high as the finance minister. I had to go as high as Nirmala Sitharaman and get that particular GST element waived for cruise vessels, not only for us, but for the industry. So for me, I felt I'd done it from, when you do that sincerity of purpose, when I say that I'm paying a deposit, taking it back after 2 years, it's a revenue neutral transaction. I'm taking it back. But nobody has the cash flow to keep that much money, 250 crores, to keep it as deposit with any country. So would I have done it? No. So I told headquarters, I'll try and find a solution. But to have the confidence and to fearlessly go there and ask for something which
Superb.
I'm not doing anything wrong for the country. At the same time, I was doing something good for the industry, made me feel very useful. And in that sense, I feel grateful that, the people in the North Block, and for that matter, even the shipping minister's office, extended their support unconditionally. I'm happy for that. And I'm
I think
grateful.
all the energies came together at the right
Correct.
time and with the right
Yes,
energy.
like they say, the universe also supported me. So I'm happy about that.
Awesome. So, ma'am, another thing I wanted to understand is that the travel and cruising industry is largely male dominated. So, did you face any sort of challenges when you were starting out during your Air India days or when you were starting as a GSA? Did you face any sort of challenges? And if so, how did you overcome
Um,
them?
Actually, I didn't even think about it, to tell you the truth. In the board
Okay.
execom of Thomas Cook and TCI, I was the only lady. I was surrounded by all the men, and I
Okay.
didn't even think about me being any different. It's all in our minds, and they say, "Oh, I'm a woman," or you're one of the directors, and you work with that
Yeah.
confidence. You work with that. Make sure you know enough or more than everybody else. At least you know as much, and you go with that kind of confidence. Where I think women, when they say they were feeling discriminated against, sometimes you yourself play the role that you're a woman. You're just any other officer. So I don't think so. It'd be unfair for me to say I ever felt discriminated. In fact, I used to very often say I'm the rose among the thorns. So, so
Beautiful.
I play in if a
Nice.
perceived disadvantage should be an advantage, and say, I add to the color in this room. But I
No.
think you just need to go with that confidence, and I think you disadvantage yourself with your own thoughts. So I don't think you need to.
Yeah.
We should demarket ourselves that
Absolutely.
way. We just need to be there, saying that I'm here
Hmm.
and I'm an individual like all of you, and um,
Hmm.
and I think even the men they'll do all of these things only if you look weak. You don't need to look weak in any
Yeah.
form. I think you just go with that confidence. So there were a lot of male
Hmm.
in the industry at one time, I remember. Now a lot of women have come in, smart women, a lot of
Hmm.
confident young girls. I feel very good to see, and I feel very good when a lot of my team members have branched out on their own and work very well. So I always say that um, uh, good when you do good, and they also have reciprocated with their good efforts. It's only fair that they fly. And I would only wish them well and say, okay, let me see if you're.
Yeah.
And I always tell people who have left me, say, if you're ever stuck, you can come back. But don't go with that fear. Just go there and fly. You'll be all right. So I feel you need to,
Mm.
if I can pass that confidence and
Yeah.
make others feel the same way, I think we've done our jobs right.
Yeah.
Do it like it is one of the tasks, and do it with that element of happiness. Every task becomes easier.
Absolutely, ma'am. And this is such a valuable advice for all the ladies out there. I mean, confidence is the key to breaking any barrier and seeing yourself as an equal in any space, right? And on another note, when I look at my co founder Ekta, I see a reflection of you in her. I mean,
Oh my
she's a
God.
working mom. And
Yes.
as someone who's still a bachelor, there is so much to
Right.
learn from inspiring ladies like you both. And I often find myself admiring her and wondering how does she manage it all. She is working full time, she's a mom, and she's also pursuing this side gig. So looking at you both, balancing everything in personal and professional life is just incredibly motivating.
Yes, I think we are fortunate. In fact, I feel that when you know that what you give for your family, you get that and back. So I feel that much more confident in my skin to know that I have so many loved ones around me. And so if looking after them, if you look at it from a perspective of a job, of work, you will feel it as a burden. But if you just say that, just do it and let's get going with your life. So I read a interview of Indira Nooyi where she said that she had become the CEO and it was announced, and when she went back home, her mother just said that, there's no milk in the house. So you need to go and get
Yeah,
it back,
yeah,
go and get it. So one
yeah.
really
Get it.
doesn't
Yeah,
ever forget their responsibilities at home. But when you say you're scared about how do I cope with so many things, but when I see my son and my daughter-in-law, a lot of the tasks of the house he takes on as well, and I feel very good about that, which includes looking after the baby or doing something that at home. I think it's good that they share that element of work because it's only fair that it
yeah,
should be shared, and I think more and more I see the youth doing that very
yeah.
nicely, which is good.
That is being seen in today's era. Yeah,
Yes, which is very good, and so I'm sure by the time you get married, you will have the support of your
yeah.
father as well.
Hopefully, yes. So, another thing I wanted to touch upon is that when you work with global cruise liners, what is the most important thing you must focus on? I mean, this would be super helpful for travel agents or anyone looking to enter the cruising industry.
We basically focus on first them knowing what the products are all about, the various ships which are there, how actually walk them through an experience of a cruiser. So he comes to the port. This is how familiarize him with the entire ship, whichever one he wants. So first, or in the first place, get him to understand all the plethora of products which are there. You have something in Dubai, you have sailings in Europe, North Europe, Scandinavia, different parts of the world. What are the seasons that's available? What are the features of the ship? What all? And these are big ocean
Hmm.
liners. Their capacity sometimes as much as 6,000 passengers. So what can they
Yeah.
expect? So basically, transform him to that space where what is he going to experience? So that's what he communicates to his
Hmm.
passenger, or for that matter, even if a passenger, very often we have passengers calling us directly and saying, "Will we get when we arrive? Will we get our meals? Where will we get our meals?" They've never been on a ship, so you should just walk him through
Hmm.
that journey. So if a travel agent wants to start selling Costa, we firstly familiarize him with the product, and then we even help him with mailers which he can send out to his client base. Get him to equip him
Okay.
with marketing and promotional material. and say, so try to make it as easy as possible for the distributor to reach his end client. We do all of that. And I think we also, of course, give him a sign in to go into our system to see the availability, see details of the ship. So we do all of that. And I'm sure every cruise line does the same thing. Get him familiar with the product because he can only sell what he knows.
Right. So, ma'am, compared to a few years ago, people are much more aware of cruising in India, right? Especially with Bollywood's influence and events like Anand Sambani's cruise wedding. People are now familiar with both domestic and international cruise liners. So, how do you think it is giving a push in terms of improvements in regulations in India and how it is impacting the overall growth for the cruising industry here?
Firstly, I think from a government perspective, I think whatever interactions I've had with the various ministries, be it shipping, be it finance, be it even for that matter, home, because CISF deals with them. I feel the government is right now very mindful and aware and wants to help. I didn't see that much earlier. I'm seeing that happening over the last few years, and I personally believe the cruising industry, or for that
Hmm.
matter, we are fortunate because the honorable
Hmm.
PM, when he launched the Sagarmala
Yeah.
project, I remember him saying, "My
Yeah.
dream is a ship leaving from Gujarat, going all the way around the ocean and ending in Calcutta."
Hmm.
And truly, that's a wonderful. We are amongst the longest coastlines. Unfortunately, we're not on the cruising map of the
Yeah.
world as yet. But the way things are moving, I think it's moving at an accelerated pace. In fact, in the budget this year, the finance minister almost talked about some kind of clarity on for the cruising industry in terms of taxation. Because I also always say, give us a cruising policy. We don't have a cruising policy. So when we talk to headquarters, they always say, give us an understanding of
They
what will be
have.
the
Yeah.
impact to us from various elements, GST, VAT, excise, custom
Yeah.
duties, tell us all of that. So there was no clear policy, but for the first time in the budget this year, the finance minister talked about the cruising industry, which
Hmm.
augurs well because that means there are people who are willing to listen to us. And I
Absolutely.
think for any industry to progress, you need to have
Hmm.
one people who want to work towards it and action, but you need people
Yeah.
at the policy level to listen to what you're trying to say, make them aware about worldwide or international practices, who are willing to say, okay, now let me amalgamate that with our policies. So I feel we are in that position right now, and that's
Absolutely.
why
Yeah.
I think the cruising industry is at a very good place in India right now. People are more aware of cruising, and when ships come to India, you can't have better advertising than that. Your metal is right here. So I remember when I started off with the cruising industry with Costa in 2012, somebody had done a survey at that time on recall of passengers of cruises. And that time when people did a recall, they only could think of, people thought of Star Cruises. They said, which cruise liner, when you think cruising, which cruise liner do you recall? And they said Star Cruises. And it was also because probably Star Cruises had come to India in 2005, 2006. Then
Hmm.
just before COVID in
Hmm.
2019, there was again a similar research done, and people said we can think of Star, and then now it's called Dream
Hmm.
Resort World, Royal Caribbean, and Costa. So I was very happy that Costa was one of the three because, and it was also in the true sense, it is also because ships of Costa came to India in 2016, 17, 18. So when you bring a vessel to India, it's the best kind of advertising. So I think the government today is wanting to encourage people. They're doing it in form of not only policy support but also in
Yeah.
terms of port infrastructure. They are not only developing port infrastructure in the west coast of India, but the other day I got a call from the Vishakhapatnam Port Authority saying that we have developed that. Can you bring a ship to the east coast? And I think cruising is a wonderful place to be in only because there are so many places you wouldn't have gone otherwise. Lakshadweep, the best, easiest way to go is through a cruise. Or for that matter, Andamans, the Port Blair area. There's so many islands. If the East Coast gets developed, ships will do the East Coast. They'll do Vishakhapatnam, Chennai, Port Blair. And Port Blair is closer to Phuket than in other parts of Thailand. So I think we need to find ways of how we can
Hmm.
communicate
Hmm.
to our respective headquarters the efforts being done by the government to recognize this
Hmm.
industry and get people to bring ships into India. And on the other hand, if ships don't come to India, make people more and more aware of the various cruise liners which are there for different segments. You have ships which are ocean liners. You have ships which are river cruises. You have the Antara ship which is there now leaving from Banaras and Calcutta, which is doing the river cruise. And each of these cruise
Hmm.
liners and each of these cruise
Yeah.
verticals have different experience to give you. Or for
Hmm.
that matter, you have the expedition cruises of Poseidon. So I feel there is a market for each of these things. So we need to take it upon
Hmm.
ourselves and tell people, you want to go to Arctic Circle, we have a product for you. You want to go to see Brahmaputra, go on sail on the Brahmaputra, we have a product for you. So I think
Yeah.
we are in a position where
Absolutely.
right now
Absolutely.
there's a plethora of products available. The market is still small, and that's why we need to make it as easy as possible for people to know what you have. And I think India is right now at a very good place. You have the senior citizen, you have the middle class generation from different parts of the country, which would find travel difficult. But at this point in time, you have all the domestic carriers giving extensive network, and with people like airlines like Indigo and Air India ordering 500 aircraft each, there's going to be more reachability, and all these people are going to, in some form or the other, become your customer. You found connectivity for them. You almost got the last mile connectivity there, and we are in a position to make the most of it. So we should see all these opportunities rather than all the hurdles which are there with any industry. Every industry has a challenge.
Right. So there is a growing interest for cruising now, especially among millennials. Even one of my friend is planning a cruise wedding.
uh,
I want to understand what new things you are working on to attract millennials and Gen Zs.
so so what Costa does is actually, at one time, cruises was meant to be for the retired people. So a couple of years ago, it's a many years ago, Costa took a concerted effort to say, let me invite young families. Okay, let's give them great experiences. And pricing being one of the components, they said, okay,
Hmm.
children below 18 years go free. They pay only 4 tax on board. So they
Okay.
took made that effort. Then they made efforts to say on board there is a
Hmm.
squawk club to take care of children. Like Costa has done it, lots of other cruise liners have also done the same thing. Now, for the Gen Z and the millennials who also want experiences, they also on board would have ice skating, they'll have Disney, they'll have lots of things on board. It becomes a floating hotel or a floating destination. So I give you all experience while you're there. But more than these
Hmm.
ocean liners, the younger generation
Hmm.
also looks at saying, can I go on a particular cruise liner which basically that has ice breaking facility to go into the Arctic Circle, go into the Antarctic? Can I climb a
Hmm.
various peak using different methods? So I feel with addressing this segment, uh, there are cruise liners offering them unique experiences as well. From Costa's perspective, we being an ocean liner have got big ships where uh, children, young people can have different, getaways within the ship. They have different experiences which are put together. So I think right now, from a retired segment perspective, all the cruise liners are moving towards the
Hmm.
younger generation, which one has affordability,
Hmm.
has spending power, and also
Good.
wants to travel frequently.
That's amazing. And on a personal note, I'm sure you would have your fair share of interesting memories while traveling or have a big client on board. Was there ever a time where you are organizing a cruise or you have a big celebrity on board where things got really funny or super challenging?
Nothing comes to my mind right away, but believe me, there have been several. What comes to me right now may not be in the cruising industry, but during my days with South African Airways, I had uh, I had the good fortune of being there when we had the World Cup 2003, and we had India, which reached semi-finals, and there was this, I think, India Pakistan match in Durban, where where this what everybody wanted to go and watch that match. But along with that, I had a request from Sachin Tendulkar's office to say he wants a specific bat from India. He wanted that. So his I think one of his family members came and delivered the
Hmm.
bat to me and said,
Hmm.
please make sure that it is carried carefully and reached to him in Durban. So I gave it to an official, a colleague of mine, who was
Hmm.
most excited because it was going to be a bat going to be used by Sachin Tendulkar, none less than that. So
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
almost begged of me to say, let me carry it for you.
दे दो
And
दे दो.
of course, I said, if you can do that. And his only
हाँ.
request was, can I, can I meet Sachin Tendulkar and hand it over myself? So I said, okay, I'll send the request to him, and I'm sure he'll
Hmm.
comply because he's a very modest and a very
Hmm.
humble
Yeah.
person. So
Hmm.
that night before he gave it, he said, I was so scared something might go. I put it next to my bed and kept it on my bed.
Oh my
Wasn't your
God.
partner for the night? He says, yes, I kept it next to my bed.
Oh.
And next morning, of course, he gave it to Sachin, and Sachin came down to the lobby, took it from him, and of course, he
Okay.
autographed, gave an autograph and whatever else. So I feel these are
Wow.
these various moments where, I, I, I think for us, it might, I'm not much of a cricket fan, but for somebody else, it meant so much. And in a way, I was happy I was able to deliver on something like that. But it was a funny incident, and Sachin's
Beautiful.
bat was his best partner that night.
Yeah, interesting.
But there are
Hmm.
several other, but they don't come to my mind right now. But as I
Hmm.
go along, maybe if there's something which I will definitely share with you.
Sure, sure, definitely. And I remember a few years ago when I was with the PR agency and we were handling the PR for Costa Cruises. And this Bollywood movie, Dil Dhadakne Do, approached us, but the collaboration did not work out that time. So I want to understand what were the challenges back then, and if the Bollywood or the entertainment industry approach Costa Cruises again for some movie or some or the other collaboration, would it be possible now?
Absolutely. I think that Dil Dhadakne Do helped the cruising industry. It helped every cruise liner to get families to think of sailing together. And I think it's a phenomenal cruise option, a holiday option for families because you get so much time together. You don't have to worry from where the next meal will come in because food is flowing in the ship all the time. You don't have to
Okay.
worry about a new location because every day you sail through the nights,
Hmm.
come to a new location the next day. So I think it's a great family holiday option. So
Yeah.
from that perspective, Dil
Hmm.
Dhadakne Do helped the cruising industry. You're right. They did speak to us briefly about doing it on one of our
Hmm.
ships. They wanted
Okay.
a small ship, and we did have that. It was on Costa New Romantica, which they were looking at. Uh, but they asked for some couple of cabins which they required blocked for 2 months, which was difficult because we didn't have that kind of inventory to give it to them for that much time. And they also wanted a dog to be on board. And that ship was already pre-booked with lots of passengers. So they didn't want the setup to be changed. So unfortunately, we couldn't do it, though I'd have loved to have that shoot to happen on my ship, but it didn't happen. But we still got the benefit of it being done on another ship, though. Ship, there's
So
demand.
if there is a demand now, is it going to be
There is
possible?
demand. If there's demand, depends on in
Hmm.
India everything is very late. It's a very late booking market. So we suddenly
Okay.
discuss 2 months from now. But all the others who book these ships have booked a
Yeah.
year in
Yeah.
advance. Now they're not going to change, suddenly say, I
Hmm.
can give you 200 cabins or 100 cabins easily available close to each other, and you need all of these various things to be done at the same time. That becomes a challenge, but I always encourage these kind of initiatives because they're a wonderful form of marketing for the ship and for the brand. I think the uniqueness of the brand can be exhibited through these initiatives.
So, what's the surprising thing you have seen lately in the cruising industry? Anything that really surprised you, or something that turned out to be very different from what you expected?
Uh, recently we had during my India sailing, there's somebody who had chartered the ship for 9 days. The ship was supposed to go to Dubai.
Okay.
The ship's capacity, Costa Serena's capacity was is 3,700 passengers.
Hmm.
And there was the charterer had written a note to all his dealers to
Hmm.
say that he qualifies for a trip to Dubai.
Okay.
And he had mentioned in that, uh, please let us know. What you need to do is just get a visa for Dubai
Hmm.
and reach Bombay.
Hmm.
But they didn't. So please let us know whether you'll go by cruise or by air. So the people
Okay.
whom we sent it out was for different parts of India,
Hmm.
and they thought cruise or by air and reach Bombay on 6th of December, let's assume.
Okay.
So they all assumed without even a cruise ticket that they qualified for being on the ship. So they all landed up on 6th December, in the morning of
Hmm.
6th December at Bombay Port
Hmm.
near Green Gate.
Hmm.
And suddenly we had 5,000 people who were there standing outside.
Oh my
Now, what
God.
he meant was, he was arranging for the 5,000 or
uh,
6,000 people to go half by air and half by the
by
cruise.
cruise, yeah.
Since people didn't come back to him, he assumed that they will come back whenever they did. And but the people assumed that even without a ticket, they can come to Mumbai Port to board the ship. So
Wow.
suddenly, where we were expecting about 3,400 passengers, because
Hmm.
that's the list which we got,
Hmm.
there were another 1,000 people standing outside Green
Oh
Gate,
my
and the
God.
line extended almost towards the customs and the Bombay Port office.
My God.
And we were told that it could be a security hazard because
Hmm.
people had come with all their bags, and since they were all hoping to get onto the ship. But
Hmm.
from my perspective, what surprised me was that the charter was most cool. He said if he can't make it, it's all right. In the
Hmm.
night he booked flights. They just need he chartered aircraft,
Hmm.
and within this short span of time he managed to get the aircraft in place for people to go and board from the airport. But
Wow.
in one is the late booking market. Two
Hmm.
is people's confidence to come without anything.
Yeah,
Straight
that is
come into Bombay with nothing. They just come with their bags and say, "Abhi hum ship pe aayenge." So I asked somebody, "Where's your cruise ticket?" He
hmm.
showed me the invitation.
Wow.
If पे लिखा है Costa Serena. So I said, ticket to nahi hai.
Hmm.
But and they were most cool and most fearless in
Hmm.
terms taking
Quite
the decision
chill.
of coming there. So in a way, it kind of surprised me, but fortunately it got sorted. But it's a nice surprise to have because
Hmm.
they show the hunger for getting a cruise experience.
Yeah,
People had just flown in and said they wanted to cruise. So it was a
but
bit of
very
a surprise,
funny.
but there were many surprise moments for me as well.
Hmm.
I remember doing the Dubai sailing. Our ship in Dubai is in it's a separate port. We are not on the normal, not in Port Rashid, but in Jumeirah we have this port with a phenomenal skyline. And I was surprised that suddenly we started getting our ships there post COVID. And previous to that, it was Port Rashid. So when I went there post COVID, suddenly this new swank port, and I said, from where did this land suddenly come? Apparently, over the period of 1 year, they had reclaimed the land. It belonged to the sheikh, and overnight they said, for any cruise liner which brings their big ship, we'll give this to you as part of our convenience. And
Wow.
in about a year and a half, they had a full infrastructure of a port in place. And in a way, it shocked
Wow.
me to see the way they truly wanted to make Dubai a
Hmm.
cruising hub for that region.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
there are lots of good surprises.
I hope we have more people like this in India.
Yes,
Yeah.
who's to know? Maybe it might happen. Yeah. And over a year, things have just transformed.
Yeah.
But I'm sure things are happening. Things are happening in our country as well
Hmm.
for the good. And I can see there are some, for that matter, I feel the skyline of Bombay has changed so much. It looks so good. So things are changing for the better. And I'm happy I'm able to experience all of this in my lifetime.
Yeah, it's been some time that I have visited
Yeah.
Bombay. Actually, during pandemic, I came back to my hometown
Oh, I
Agra.
see.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, so do come to Bombay. The coastal road has
yeah.
opened from Worli. You can
Hmm.
go straight into Marine Drive. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, and there are lots of new highways. So though the traffic jams are still there, but still I think the skyline of Bombay is changing for the better and looks nicer. Or for that matter, I just came back from Bhopal. Last weekend, I was a speaker at the IO2 conference. Again, I was so surprised to see this neat, clean, nice city. And, all of us travel all over the world. I just think now, we need to do domestic holidays as well. We need to be going to Varanasi, to Bhopal, to different parts of our own country because we truly believe I truly believe things are changing for the better. I'm sure Agra has also changed a lot.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, when I left Agra back in, I guess, 2014, I had gone to Bombay for college. And that time, Agra was so different. And now that I'm back and I see the city has grown so much, there are new
Absolutely.
places. Every day they are opening up, and we can go, like, young people, they have a place to go chill with their
Yeah.
friends. Yeah. Have
Yeah.
you visited Agra before?
Long time ago, I have seen the Taj Mahal.
Taj Mahal. Okay.
Many, many years ago.
Hmm.
I've been there. There was a travel agency conference again there. There was a Thai conference.
Okay.
I was there during that time, and it was some time back, but I must come back.
Yes,
It is,
please.
it
I'm
is
going to be
a
your
must-see.
travel
Yeah.
guide.
So, we used to have people on the India sailing
Hmm.
who used to do Bombay, Mangalore, Cochin. So many of them used to at Bombay stay for one night on the ship, the next day go to the Golden
And
Triangle,
cover that. Yeah.
Delhi, Agra, Jaipur,
Hmm.
and join the ship again in Cochin.
Okay.
So, all this, so the foreigners, truly for them, it's a must
Yeah,
do.
yeah,
They
yeah.
might do a South India, but they must do a must do for the Golden
Hmm.
Triangle.
Yeah.
In fact, it is marketed so well in all
Hmm.
over the world.
True, true, true.
It's good. So, you're in a landmark city.
Yeah, yeah. On an average, there would be 40 to 50,000 tourists visiting Taj Mahal every day.
Wow, wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah, and I believe that a lot of that area has got cleaned
Yeah,
and there are
yeah,
space
yeah,
for guides to move around more
yeah.
easily. That's wonderful.
So if you compare the tourist area to the city, this part is much more organized and much more
Good.
cleaner.
That's
Yeah.
nice. Good. I'll look forward to coming there again soon.
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
And do let me know when you're coming.
Yes, I'll do that.
Yeah.
I'll definitely do that.
Okay. Yeah. So, since we are talking about destinations, what is your favorite destinations? I mean, is there any personal story that you love sharing with your friends and family?
Europe continues to be one of
Mm-hmm.
my must-see cruises. I remember doing Ibiza
Hmm.
once and on the ship, and the other place was
Okay.
I think it was Ibiza, and one more other place. I forget the place right now, but very often when we're getting into the port, I go right on top of the ship, the upper deck, and actually see the skyline when you're entering. And I feel
Hmm.
some of these ports are so beautiful and so
Wow.
inviting. They almost make you believe there must be a God somewhere to make
Hmm.
such beautiful places. So I think my travels into places like Ibiza, or for that
Hmm.
matter, even places, the Norwegian fjords, which I've done. I've had the good fortune to do the Norwegian fjords with
Okay.
on Costa from Copenhagen, and I remember it was 23rd of June, and I met the
Hmm.
captain that evening, and he said, tonight we enter the fjords. You'll be able to smell it. So I said, so he said, be out in the balcony. We enter tonight around
Okay.
midnight. So I said, what a pity, I won't be able to see it. He says, no, today's 23rd June, the
Okay.
sun doesn't set. And
Hmm.
so we saw, I was out in the balcony at till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. It
Oh,
was a
wow.
bright day. It was a very nice feeling to know that, you entering the fjords.
Hmm.
There's a particular kind of a smell which you
Hmm.
get when you're entering the fjord, which is a very pleasant smell. And you could experience all of this. I felt very
Okay.
grateful that,
Okay.
we can see these kind of landmarks in our lifetime,
Hmm.
experience the fjord, experience weaving through the
Yeah.
fjords. Now I'm told that going forward, they're going to reduce the number of big ships to enter the fjords
Hmm.
because the vibrations of the ships could impact the fjords. So going forward, in a
Okay.
couple of years, they're going to stop the big ships coming in. They're going to get
Oh,
the smaller ships. So
okay.
I think our Copenhagen sailing was wonderful for me, and so also I
Hmm.
think Europe, and of course back home, I loved my sailing into Lakshadweep. I think it's
Hmm.
Lakshadweep, in fact, is very, very beautiful, totally
Hmm.
not marketed. I think Maldives has that kind of position because it's
Hmm.
marketed so nicely. But Lakshadweep, in fact, I think is even prettier, but not marketed
Hmm.
as yet. I think it's almost a must go for most Indians. And what I enjoyed also to see the simplicity of the people out there.
Hmm.
I'd gone for the port survey, and I met some very old people there, and they looked most carefree. And I asked them that, don't you want to go to India, go to not India, to go to other states in India and work there? Some of the young people, they said, why should we? We are
Hmm.
receiving support from the
Hmm.
center. We are very happy here, and we for water we get
Hmm.
coconuts by the
Hmm.
hundred. We just have to shake a tree and we get the coconut water. And if I'm hungry and go and fish, I fish outside. I don't have to worry. So they look so content with their lives.
Okay.
It was a very different experience, for me. So I think places like Maldives, Lakshadweep, these are beautiful places, and I'm happy I could see it being on the ship because, by air is one experience, but being on the ship, so in the ocean, is absolutely, absolutely divine. I just loved it.
Beautiful. I just feel like booking my tickets right away and just go for vacations.
Yes, you should
Yeah.
do that. Absolutely, you should do that.
Yeah.
I think cruising is a very easy way of holiday.
So, ma'am, as you mentioned that cruise companies are focusing on preserving fjords and keeping the experiences intact. So, when it comes to sustainability and keeping the cruise policies in mind, how are we ensuring sustainable growth? And how are we helping coastal communities both in India and
Firstly,
globally?
more and more ships are
Hmm.
using LNG fueled. More and more ships are getting ours definitely is, and many other cruise companies as well. The other thing that they do is they banned or reduced
Okay.
plastic to a large extent. There's no plastic
Hmm.
policy. So in that sense, that again makes sure the oceans are not impacted. Then also how they
Hmm.
dispose the waste. They make sure that even if it's food, they don't dispose it into the oceans unless
Hmm.
it can be used by the fish. So they just make sure it's disposed of very nicely, and they take care of those elements of it. And I think in terms of looking after the coastal
Hmm.
community, what happens is very
Yeah.
often these ports which are along the coast or along on the
Hmm.
itinerary, a lot of the communities out there, this is the economy flourishes with cruise companies coming there. For instance, in Dubrovnik, or Croatia. I know of one particular time when on Sunday there were about 10 cruise ships docking at Dubrovnik. They were told by the local authorities, local residents, please stay indoors unless you're looking after the cruise ship passengers, because we want these people, 25,000 people are coming onto our port. We need enough space for them to move around. So you please stay indoors. So for them, it was important because they're generating employment and also adding to the economy in terms of shopping and going to the restaurants, so on and so forth. So I think in terms of in actual um, betterment of that community, these cruise ships are helping that community be employed and being employable. So in that sense, I think some of these places on along the coast may not have survived had this segment not existed. For that
Okay.
matter, the same thing happens, be it in our own country,
Hmm.
in Cochin or Mangalore or Goa, or for that matter, Maldives. You have all, no, everybody comes around cruise ships because
Hmm.
of the excursion that people can be taken on or taken to different islands for different experiences. It's generating employment,
Hmm.
generating revenues for that particular city or that particular location.
Okay, so are there any training or skill development program for locals to get benefit from the growing cruise tourism industry?
See, each of these locations, for instance, the travel and
Hmm.
tourism location in Goa or Cochin, or for that matter,
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
lot
Hmm.
of the agents who handle these kind of people do the training for them, and the local
Hmm.
states or governments also
Hmm.
support training them on how they need to ensure they can manage this the people coming from the ships, not only in terms of being good guides, but also managing the feel of that place through their conduct. So I think a lot of these individual the individual enterprises which have opened looking after them, or for that matter, even travel companies who are looking after these excursions, train their team or their guides to look after them in a particular way, or
Hmm.
be equipped with enough information to pass it on to them to
Hmm.
ensure that
Hmm.
they have
Hmm.
good experiences while they're there. So there are structured programs already. I know in Kerala, or
Hmm.
for that matter, even in Bombay, the Garwari Institute already trains
Hmm.
people on how they can look after the travel segment well, and cruising is one of them.
Okay, beautiful. I also wanted to ask you a very personal question as
Yeah.
you and Vasundhara, your daughter, are working together. So I wanted to understand how does it work, like how you and Vasundhara coming together has contributed to the company's growth and has influenced it in one or the other way.
In fact, for a brief period between 2016 and 18, my son, who was working with City in London, took a break from his corporate world and was was in a way trying, getting himself organized for the next phase in his life. He spent 2 years with me. I think that was the first time, and that time Vasundhara was already there because she'd also finished her master's in UK and come back. So I had both my children with me, and I think in that sense, they bring with them their own personalities and
Okay.
their own strengths. And there are always
Hmm.
situations where probably you might have a different point of view. And I think if you have a mindset when you say, okay, that's his point of view, and maybe we
Hmm.
should just find a solution, I think it works because that's bound to happen because they are individual
Hmm.
entities into themselves. But fortunately for me, we have a very good connect between, I have very good connect with my son and my daughter. And he went back in 2018, but Vasundhara continued to stay. She's almost kind of, understood the business perfectly well. And I think as a younger generation person, she truly brings with her her own energy, brings her energy and brings a lot of understanding of the business through me, but brings with her her own maturity and thinking. So there are sometimes situations where I may not have thought of something, but she when she brings it up, I say, "Oh, I'm glad I spoke to her about it." So I'm happy on a personal level. I'm happy that she's there with me because though she's married and gone to another house, I still see her every day. I don't have to wait for her once a month or whatever else. I see her every day. So in a way, it is nice, and I'm
Hmm.
happy. I'm able to move it to the next level. Of course, there are other people in my team as well who are almost part of my family now, my team members, and they've also understood. And in fact, they do their jobs also so well. All of them add
Yeah.
value. So for me, Vasundhara being there has been immense support. I've also been motivating her husband to join the business. I hope someday I'm able to motivate him enough.
Awesome, awesome. All
Thank
the
you.
best. And
Thank you.
the very last question is what advice you would like to give to young professionals who are trying to make their way in the cruising sector?
I would say anybody who wants to come into this industry, one is I think it has huge potential. There's so much of business to be done. It'll be foolish to think that, he may not do well. It is his mindset. He needs to have a positive attitude. He needs to bring energy into with him. He needs to ensure you need to be hardworking. While you might say you need a lot of determination and perseverance, you need to be hardworking in terms of ensuring that, even if you're making an effort, there are times when you can say no to your customer, but he needs to see the sincere efforts when you're trying to make it happen. If it still doesn't happen, even he will understand. So I think what is important is uh, ensuring that you put in all of
Mm-hmm.
yourself into it. And you always have new customers,
Okay.
but making sure the old customer keeps coming back to you again and again is the best form of compliment to you. So I feel that they'll always say, okay, ये ठीक नहीं तो दूसरा कोई आ जाएगा. It's not that way. You just have to build your business with the old people coming back to you again and again, and new people being added every year. So I think the attitude of saying that I need to give it my all, I want to give people, they're trusting you with their holiday. You need to give it your all to make sure they come back with great memories. And I think you need to be in this space only if you truly believe you have the desire to ensure that. you're going to do a good job of it. There are no cutting corners. You just have to do it because the moment of truth is when the passenger is on that flight and he's out there for that trip. You just can't say, I will do it someday. You have to do it when you have to do it. And if you've committed to doing it, do it. Otherwise, just don't commit. Don't make a false promise. I always say the real thing should be better than anticipation. You can't just say, he anticipates great thing and then it's a disaster. So make sure what you're promising him, you deliver on that and more. So I would say that, uh, go into this business. There's a lot to be done. Just think about it. You're in a position to give so much happiness to people. Just do it. And people are willing to pay for it because today you might have lots of information, but people don't have the time. So can I? He's going to reach out to you because you're able to deliver. So do it well. Do it, ensuring you can give them perfect experience.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And I think it was such a valuable advice. And anything that you would like to share with the audience, anything that I've missed out?
I feel amazed at the younger generation. I feel amazed to see so many startups. I feel amazed to see many people who would normally go in for a job, wanting to now step out and say, let me try something else. And innovation is the way forward. Can I be hardworking? Can I be innovative? Can I? So I think I marvel at the new generation. I marvel at what's happening in our country. I feel we are truly at a very good place in our own country. I feel very proud to be an Indian. And I always say that, we need to create packages which is India for Indians. Indians understand. And I think for cruising, the biggest market is sitting in India. The domestic market, you don't have to go anywhere else. In the US, they look for very few passengers coming from outside because the domestic market is the biggest market, biggest consumer. Same way, I think in India, we with ships coming into India, we really don't have to look elsewhere because our market size is so large. So I think in that sense, every opportunity I get, I talk to not only Costa but every cruise line saying, come to India. It's a great place to be in. There are challenges, but it can all be sorted. There's nothing which can't be done, but we need to walk that journey together and things will only get better. So on that positive note, I would say I'd like to wish you all the best as well, Megha, in your journey as a podcaster.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It means a lot. And it was great having you on Journey of Giants. Thank you for chatting with us. Thank you.
I guess.
To all our listeners, thank you for watching it. And do check out Costa Cruises if you're planning for vacation or you're planning your big day. You want to have like a lavish cruise wedding. And I would also like to thank our sponsor, Diggy Entertainments. Thank you so much for making this episode possible. Until next time, stay happy, stay healthy. Goodbye.